Hello, everyone. This is Senior Biotech Analyst John Vandermosten. Welcome to our channel that educates the life sciences investor on exciting advancements in drugs, biologics, and devices. For more content and news like this, subscribe to our channel below and like or share with others. Dr. Cook, what can you tell us about how Symphony can maintain its competitive advantage?
Yeah, so being first says a lot. By being the first to commercialize, we'll be able to obtain substantial market share before competition arises. We plan to develop an array of different biomarker tests to complement IL-6 specific for the critical care space. We'll continue to improve our technology, promoting usability while streamlining costs, hopefully maintaining our stronghold on the market once we commercialize.
And what does the current environment look like for testing for these critical?
I would say for IL-6, for the most part, it's dominated by the big analyzer systems that have been granted emergency use authorization by the FDA. As we know, the EUA mechanism is disappearing, so IL-6 testing will become less available on these platforms. Research use products such as old-style plate ELISAs, electrochemistry devices, and lateral flow tests are also used. However, many labs that would be in the market for such technologies are reluctant to adopt these types of tests as an LDT or laboratory developed tests and would prefer to just use the send outs. So they would send out IL-6 to third-party labs.
Now I've done some research on there, and there are lateral flow tests that can measure IL-6, and they provide a quick result, can be done on site. But I think those aren't really appropriate in these situations. Tell us why that is, and is a lateral flow test a serious competitor for what you're offering with the Bluejay Diagnostic?
Yeah, so in the spaces we're exploring, lateral flow from a technological standpoint would have difficulty entering. Lateral flow just does not have the precision, sensitivity, specificity, or analytical measurement range to be an effective tool to be measuring IL-6, especially on the parts per billion level where Symphony operates.
And how accurate is the Symphony IL-6?
So the Symphony test results will be validated with clinical studies. This will link Symphony results with patient outcomes. These outcomes of these studies will demonstrate the accuracy of Symphony IL-6. In our previous studies, our results have been very similar to the performance on those large clinical mainstays in central labs.
Right, and I think you, as you mentioned, you had a study there, and we can provide a link to that below, where you compared, I think, what is it, to Roche's test? Was that right? And they're in lab test, yeah.
Yes, so we had some comparisons with Roche, but there's two other systems as well that's available, and across the board, Symphony was very, very similar to all three of the big name brands.
Okay, great. Yeah, and we'll include a link to that so you can actually see the data as it stands. During COVID, there were some emergency use approvals, other IL-6 tests, such as Roche's that I just mentioned. What's the status of those tests now?
So the emergency use authorizations were for the risk stratification of COVID-19 patients, not for sepsis patients. As we know, the EUA mechanism is not permanent and will go away sometime soon. The FDA has not cleared any use of IL-6 for sepsis patients yet. We expect Symphony to be the first IL-6 test for sepsis patients, and will be the only test that can perform these tests from blood draw to test result in around 20 minutes.
There's a few recognized markers for sepsis, including IL-6, procalcitonin, and C-reactive protein. And I believe that some of those other markers maybe are used now, but they're not necessarily the best ones. Can you explain why that is, and why IL-6 probably is the best thing to use when you're trying to diagnose sepsis?
Yeah, so if you look at the biochemistry, IL-6 comes first in the inflammatory pathway. So for early onset of critical events, IL-6 will be elevated while procalcitonin and C-reactive protein will not be. Therefore, when patients are rapidly decompensating, IL-6 will be the most sensitive.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Dr. Cook. Really appreciate you sharing the details with us. I have Chief Technology Officer of Bluejay Diagnostics, Dr. Jason Cook. Bluejay Diagnostics, ticker symbol BJDX.